scientific study on the Shroud of Turin. And the great majority of them have concluded the shroud is indeed 2,000 years old.
The Shroud of Turin is this amazing relic. At bottom, it's a piece of cloth.
The Shroud of Turin, a mysterious linen cloth bearing the haunting image of a crucified man, has baffled scientists, historians, and skeptics for centuries. But here's the astonishing part. The image isn't just any impression. It's a near-perfect photographic negative. And the wounds? Every mark lines up precisely with what Jesus Christ endured. Recently, Glenn Beck shared new revelations that have reignited the global conversation. Revelations so profound, they've left even the most doubtful voices stunned. For those still searching, still asking, God, show me a sign. What if the sign has already been given? Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, gave his life for our sins, and on the third day, he rose again. He conquered death and now sits at the right hand of God. This isn't just history, it's eternity calling. Join us now as we uncover the truth, the mystery, and the miracle behind the shroud.
This is the story of a piece of cloth.
Turin, Italy, June 21st, 2015. The leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis, prays before a 14-foot-long ancient linen cloth. Christian holy relic is referred to as the Shroud of Turin.
The Shroud of Turin has captivated believers, skeptics, and scientists alike for centuries. This ancient linen cloth bears the faint, haunting image of a crucified man, one that many believe to be Jesus Christ. But how did this image come to be imprinted on the fabric? Was it a painting, a medieval forgery, or something far more extraordinary? These questions fueled one of the most comprehensive scientific investigations in religious history, conducted in 1978. One of the key figures in that pivotal inquiry was Barry Schwartz, the official photographer for the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP. When Schwartz joined the team, he did so as a skeptic. Raised in a secular Jewish household, he had no emotional or spiritual connection to the shroud. He assumed it was likely a medieval artifact, and his task was simply to document the scientific examination. But what he encountered during those 120 intensive hours in October 1978 would profoundly alter his worldview. STURP was composed of over 30 American scientists, engineers, and researchers. This group dedicated more than 2 years to designing a battery of tests to be carried out during their brief but crucial access to the shroud in Turin, Italy. Their mission was clear: use cutting-edge scientific methods to determine how the image on the linen was formed. Was it paint, a scorch mark, or perhaps the result of some unknown process? The findings were as unexpected as they were controversial. The STURP team concluded that the image on the shroud was not painted, nor could it be explained by conventional photographic or artistic methods. In fact, they suggested that the image might have been formed by a sudden burst of radiant energy, a hypothesis that bordered on the supernatural. This idea was later supported by research from Italian scientists at Italy's National Agency for New Technologies, Energy, and Sustainable Economic Development. They theorized that the image could only have been formed by an intense, short-duration burst of ultraviolet light, something no forger in medieval Europe would have had access to. The shroud's image is actually a double exposure, showing both the front and back of a man who appears to have suffered brutal scourging and crucifixion. Despite its faintness, the image exhibits physical and chemical properties that modern science struggles to replicate. For example, the coloration is confined to the very outermost fibers of the linen, less than a fraction of a micrometer thick. No pigments, dyes, or brush strokes have been detected, and the image lacks directionality, meaning it was not applied by hand in any traditional sense. John Jackson, another leading member of STURP, has spent decades trying to solve the mystery of the shroud. As a teenager growing up in Denver, Colorado, Jackson became fascinated with an image of the shroud and eventually made it his life's work. In 1978, he led a team to Turin, and today he continues his research at the Turin Shroud Center in Colorado Springs. Jackson has noted that the image poses a genuine scientific puzzle and remains an open challenge to researchers across disciplines. He and his colleagues have conducted countless experiments, exploring possibilities from radiation to biological imprinting, yet none has conclusively explained how the image was made. Despite the magnitude of the 1978 study, the only additional testing allowed on the shroud since then has been limited to conservation efforts. In 1988, a radiocarbon dating test dated the shroud to the 14th century, sparking claims that it was a medieval hoax. However, that conclusion has been heavily contested in the years since. Critics of the 1988 test point out that it was conducted on a sample taken from a section of the cloth that may have been repaired in the Middle Ages, possibly skewing the results. Other researchers have argued that the shroud has been exposed to high temperatures during past fires, which could have altered its radiocarbon signature. The Vatican has officially stated that the data collected during the 1978 STURP examination remains the most complete and scientifically robust information available. While the Church does not take an official stance on the shroud's authenticity, it has preserved the cloth as a relic of immense religious significance. The findings from the 1978 investigation continue to be used by scientists around the world who are still probing the nature and origin of the image. In the years following STURP's research, many new theories have emerged, some grounded in science, others bordering on science fiction. The rise of the internet and digital imaging technology has allowed countless individuals to study the shroud more closely than ever before. Alongside reputable researchers, however, have come opportunists and myth-makers, some of whom propose theories without sufficient scientific evidence. This has unfortunately muddied public understanding of the shroud. One particularly intriguing theory is the proto-photography hypothesis proposed by Professor Nicholas Allen. Allen suggests that the image could have been created using photographic techniques in the medieval period. According to his theory, a light-sensitive emulsion could have been applied to linen, and a room-sized camera obscura might have been used to project the image of a real crucified body onto the cloth. He claims that the image was made in two stages, one for the front, ventral side, and another for the back, dorsal side. While this theory is compelling and testable, it has yet to gain widespread acceptance, largely due to the lack of historical evidence that such technology existed in the Middle Ages. Despite the ongoing debate and mystery, one truth remains for millions of Christians around the world. The Shroud of Turin is a powerful symbol of the suffering and resurrection of Jesus Christ. While believers do not need the shroud to affirm their faith, it continues to inspire wonder, reflection, and renewed interest in the final hours of Christ's life. As the Bible says, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." John 20:29. Our salvation does not depend on relics or artifacts, but on a living relationship with Jesus, who died for our sins and rose again, offering eternal life to all who believe. Whether the shroud is an authentic burial cloth of Christ or an unexplained historical artifact, its mystery invites us to explore not just the past, but the profound spiritual truths that transcend science. It reminds us that faith and reason, far from being opposites, can together lead us toward deeper understanding and awe at the wonders of God's work, both seen and unseen.
On findings being published in a new book out today on the Shroud of Turin. That's the linen cloth believed to bear Jesus' imprint as he was being prepared.
Recent theories surrounding the Shroud of Turin have stirred significant debate among both scientists and religious scholars. One such theory, proposed by Professor Nicholas Allen, suggests that the image on the shroud was produced using a form of medieval proto-photography. According to Allen, the image was created using a camera obscura, an optical device that projects an image onto a surface, and a photosensitive substance, effectively functioning as a rudimentary photographic process centuries before the invention of modern photography. Allen's original hypothesis posited that two exposures, one for the front and one for the back of the body, would each require approximately 4 days of exposure time to bright sunlight. This means the entire process would span at least 8 days. More recently, Allen has revised his theory to include a third exposure specifically for the face, suggesting a different lens was used to enhance detail and avoid the natural decomposition of a human body during the prolonged exposure periods required for developing the image. He also proposed that this process would have had to occur in a cold climate to prevent the body from decaying too quickly under intense sunlight. Despite the ingenuity of this theory, it lacks historical evidence. While Allen has meticulously documented early references to lenses and the camera obscura in medieval texts, he has not provided a single historical example where such optical and chemical knowledge was effectively integrated into a working photographic system during that era. The complex interplay of chemistry, optics, and material science required for such a process far surpasses the technological capabilities of medieval Europe. If such a process had indeed existed, it raises the question of why we do not see more examples of similar images or techniques from that time. Surely, if medieval proto-photography were a real and successful art form, it would have been recognized and replicated, gaining fame for its creators. Instead, photography emerged during the Industrial Revolution, not the Middle Ages, strongly suggesting that such technology was not available during earlier centuries. Allen's revised claim that the facial image on the shroud was produced in a third, distinct exposure adds another layer of complexity. He supports this by noting spherical aberration, a lens-based distortion, within the facial image, which he interprets as evidence of a separate lens being used. This would mean that a medieval photographer not only had access to advanced optical knowledge, but was also capable of managing multiple exposure layers with extreme precision. Achieving such results today would require advanced photographic equipment and digital imaging tools, making it difficult to accept that such technology could have existed in the 13th or 14th century. Moreover, both the ventral, front, and dorsal, back images on the shroud exhibit remarkable anatomical detail. While Allen dismisses the dorsal image as less detailed, pointing out that facial features and fingers are not visible from the back, this is a natural consequence of the body's orientation. Nevertheless, the dorsal image includes numerous scourge marks spread across the shoulders, back, buttocks, and legs. These details have been verified by at least 3 expert forensic pathologists and anatomists, adding credibility to the notion that the image reflects a real human body subjected to severe trauma. Allen has also argued that the shroud displays signs of stigmata that align with religious beliefs popular in the 13th and 14th centuries. However, this claim is directly challenged by multiple forensic pathologists who argue that the wounds and bloodstains are medically accurate and consistent with Roman crucifixion practices. One particularly compelling point is that the bloodstains on the shroud appear to be present on the cloth before the image itself was formed. Scientific analyses conducted by the Shroud of Turin research project, STURP, and other teams have confirmed there is no image underneath these stains, suggesting that the blood inhibited whatever process created the image. This directly undermines Allen's theory, as his proposed mechanism fails to account for the correct sequence of image and bloodstain formation. Allen's reasoning appears to be influenced by his acceptance of the carbon dating tests conducted in 1988, which dated the shroud to the medieval period. Since the image does not appear to be a painting and exhibits characteristics found in photographic negatives, he concludes that it must be a photograph. However, this reasoning overlooks substantial scientific evidence that suggests otherwise. The combination of factors, the anatomical accuracy, the 3D negative image, the bloodstains predating the image, and the lack of pigments or brush strokes, makes it exceedingly difficult to explain the shroud's formation through any known medieval technique. Instead, a growing body of research points to an entirely different mechanism for the image formation. In 2008, Dr. John Jackson and his research team proposed a hypothesis involving a burst of vacuum ultraviolet VUV radiation. According to this theory, an intense and brief burst of VUV radiation caused the outermost fibers of the linen to become dehydrated and discolored, creating a high-resolution, three-dimensional negative image of the body wrapped in the cloth. This radiation would have affected only the very top layer of the fibers without scorching the material, a phenomenon that no known natural process can replicate. There is currently no natural explanation for a decomposing human body or any tomb environment to emit such a burst of VUV radiation. The absence of any known physical cause raises the possibility of a supernatural event, specifically the resurrection of Jesus Christ, as described in the New Testament. While science cannot prove the supernatural, it can eliminate natural explanations, and in this case, all known natural mechanisms fall short. Jackson's theory goes even further. He suggests that the body wrapped in the shroud became mechanically transparent and emitted light evenly from every point within its volume. This would explain how the image captures not just the surface of the body, but also subtle internal and overlapping details, such as the double image of the hands. This phenomenon is entirely unknown in modern physics, making the shroud a singular anomaly. These findings support the idea that the shroud is not the product of medieval trickery or primitive photography, but rather the result of a unique and unexplained phenomenon. The evidence calls for a new round of carbon dating using improved sampling techniques that address the flaws of the original 1988 tests. New dating methods already suggest a much older origin for the shroud, aligning it with the time of Christ. In conclusion, while the exact method of image formation on the Shroud of Turin remains a mystery, the most compelling explanation points to an event beyond the realm of natural science, perhaps even the resurrection itself. The shroud continues to challenge scientific understanding and inspire faith, standing as a silent witness to something extraordinary that took place over 2,000 years ago.
I believe this is indeed the burial shroud of Jesus that the Gospels all four tell us about.
The mystery of the Shroud of Turin continues to puzzle both scientists and theologians. Despite decades of study, modern physics has not yet provided a definitive explanation for the unique and enigmatic features embedded within the fabric. As it stands, Jackson's hypothesis that the image was formed through a burst of vacuum ultraviolet radiation is currently the only scientifically plausible explanation capable of accounting for all the anomalies observed. Yet, if no natural or physical advancement can clarify how a decomposing human body could become mechanically transparent and simultaneously emit radiation of this nature from every point on its surface, we may be on the threshold of acknowledging a transphysical or even metaphysical cause. Under such circumstances, it becomes both reasonable and responsible to consider that a supernatural force could have interacted with the body wrapped in the linen. This interaction might have resulted in a sudden, powerful burst of light that not only imprinted the figure onto the fabric, but also defies all known mechanisms of image formation. While such a hypothesis cannot be empirically verified through scientific means, its plausibility increases if all other explanations are exhausted. The strength of this inference, grounded in the convergence of theological testimony and scientific enigma, supports a rational belief in something beyond natural laws. But does this lead us to believe that the image on the shroud is evidence of Jesus Christ's resurrection? The resurrection, as described in Christian theology, is not merely a resuscitation of a lifeless body. It is a profound transformation into what the Apostle Paul refers to as a spiritual body, a body imbued with glory, spirit, and divine power. In this light, the mysterious image may represent more than just a relic. It may be a signpost pointing toward a moment of transformation from the physical to the glorified state, a spiritual transition marked by radiant light. This transformation is consistent with the biblical narrative. According to Paul's writings and the gospel accounts, the resurrection of Jesus was not an ordinary return to physical life, but a unique event that redefined the human relationship with life, death, and eternity. The characteristics of the shroud's image, particularly the suggestion of light and transparency, resonate powerfully with this theological concept. Though we lack concrete scientific evidence, the parallel between the physical effects observed on the shroud and the scriptural description of a glorified body gives weight to the argument that the image may be the direct result of Jesus' resurrection. The question naturally follows: why believe this specific image and burial cloth belonged to Jesus of Nazareth? The theory that the shroud is a medieval forgery, once widely entertained, has become increasingly untenable in light of several compelling lines of evidence. First, and perhaps most importantly, there is a complete absence of paint, pigment, dye, or other artistic substances on the image. The image is not painted, drawn, or stained in any conventional way. While microscopic flecks of pigment have been found, these appear to be residue transferred from religious icons that came into contact with the shroud during veneration. The absence of artistic materials strongly undermines the idea that this image was manually created, especially with the tools and knowledge available in medieval Europe. Second, the anatomical precision of the bloodstains is remarkable. Composed of real human blood, these stains not only match the wounds consistent with crucifixion, but also congealed on the fabric before the image itself formed, suggesting a sequence of events that aligns with a real, deceased body being wrapped in the linen. How could a medieval forger, without knowledge of blood flow patterns and human anatomy, produce such perfect and scientifically accurate detail? Third, pollen grains found on the cloth are indigenous to the region of Palestine, including species found only in the vicinity of Jerusalem. The presence of these botanical markers suggests the cloth originated in that region. In addition, coins dating back to AD 29 were discovered over the eyes of the man depicted in the shroud. The use of such coins for burial practices was common in the 1st century. How could a forger in medieval Europe, with no access to these ancient details or pollen samples, have replicated such accuracy? Fourth, and perhaps most astonishingly, the image contains 5 scientific enigmas that seem to defy natural explanation. The image appears as a perfect photographic negative, something not understood until the invention of photography in the 19th century. Additionally, only the uppermost fibers of the linen are discolored. No substances penetrate into the cloth. The image also displays a double anatomical imprint, both front and back, suggesting the body was enveloped in the cloth in a manner consistent with 1st century Jewish burial customs. Moreover, the proportions of the hands, including a partially hidden thumb and the accurate depiction of bones beneath the surface, reflect knowledge of internal human anatomy that far exceeds medieval understanding. Most notably, the image formation would have required a source of vacuum ultraviolet radiation, something not producible with the technology of any pre-modern era. Given all this, the conclusion that the shroud is merely a hoax becomes increasingly implausible. On the contrary, the evidence strongly suggests authenticity, not just as an ancient artifact, but potentially as the very burial cloth that once enveloped the crucified body of Jesus Christ. 3 distinct types of evidence strengthen this claim: material, geographical, and biological. The flax used to weave the linen, the pollen grains embedded within it, and the coins placed on the eyes all trace back to 1st century Palestine, the region where Jesus lived, died, and, according to Christian belief, rose again. Furthermore, the wounds and blood stains on the shroud match the specific tortures Jesus endured: the crown of thorns, the scourging, the pierced side by a Roman spear. These are not general signs of execution, but rather unique markers of Jesus' crucifixion as described in the Gospels. This convergence of data leads us to consider that the shroud not only witnessed the crucifixion, but may have been present at the moment of the resurrection. If the image was formed by a burst of transphysical light from a glorified body, as the theory suggests, then the shroud may capture the exact moment Jesus passed from death into a new, spiritual form. This theory aligns with Paul's description of a spiritual body, a being no longer bound by earthly physics, but radiant with divine power. Christian theology stands alone in its vision of resurrection as transformation, not merely reanimation. Judaism typically focuses on the future bodily resurrection of the dead, while many pagan traditions speak of ghostly or immaterial survival after death. In contrast, Christianity proclaims a glorified resurrection body, a concept echoed both in Scripture and, arguably, in the physical effects seen on the shroud. Given the overwhelming unlikelihood that this burial cloth belongs to anyone other than Jesus of Nazareth, and the specific elements of his crucifixion being clearly visible in the cloth, we find it reasonable to conclude that the shroud is indeed his burial linen. More than a mere artifact, it is a sacred sign pointing to the most extraordinary event in human history, the resurrection. Since its arrival in Turin in 1578, the shroud has been preserved in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist and displayed only on rare occasions. Millions of pilgrims have journeyed to witness it, drawn by its haunting image and the deep spiritual questions it raises. The linen itself is made from flax fibers, roughly 1/5 the diameter of a human hair, woven in a 3-to-1 herringbone pattern, typical of first-century Jewish burial cloths. The Gospels recount that Jesus was wrapped in a clean linen shroud by Joseph of Arimathea. Luke records that Peter found the linen strips lying by themselves in the tomb, while John adds that the cloth once wrapped around Jesus' head was seen folded separately. Many scholars speculate that these could correspond to the Shroud of Turin and the Sudarium of Oviedo, together offering compelling evidence for the Gospel accounts. Yet, the shroud continues to challenge both science and faith. While carbon-14 dating conducted in 1988 suggested a medieval origin, that result has since come under scrutiny. Contamination from centuries of handling, fire damage, and repair threads may have skewed the results. Recent research reopens the possibility that the shroud dates back to the 1st century, coinciding with the lifetime of Christ. Ultimately, the Shroud of Turin represents a profound intersection between science and spirituality. Its image, formed under conditions we do not yet understand, brings the passion of Christ into tangible, visual form. It invites not only reverence, but reflection, a meditation on suffering, death, and the hope of resurrection. While it may never offer irrefutable scientific proof, it offers something perhaps more powerful, a compelling, mysterious testimony that invites each of us to encounter the risen Christ not through the eyes of certainty, but through the lens of faith. The Shroud of Turin has long held a place of deep reverence and fascination within Christian tradition. For many believers, and especially for teenagers who are navigating questions of faith and seeking tangible affirmations of their beliefs, the shroud stands as a powerful and compelling symbol. Its association with the suffering, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ offers a concrete connection to biblical history that resonates on both emotional and spiritual levels. The significance of the shroud has not gone unnoticed by the Church. Over the centuries, it has received formal acknowledgement from various popes and ecclesiastical pronouncements. One of the earliest and most noteworthy references appears in the papal bull Romanus Pontifex, issued on April 25, 1506, by Pope Julius II. In this document, he referred to the cloth as that most famous shroud in which our Savior was wrapped when he lay in the tomb. He affirmed its importance and reported that it was being preserved with honor and devotion in a silver casket. This reverence was not isolated. It echoed throughout church history, as subsequent popes continued to recognize and uphold the spiritual value of the relic. Pope Julius II's reference to earlier writings further emphasized the shroud's significance. He mentioned a treatise on the precious blood by his predecessor Sixtus IV, who asserted that through the shroud one could behold the actual blood and portrait of Jesus Christ. This belief anchored the idea that the shroud was not merely symbolic, but might actually be the very linen that Joseph of Arimathea used to wrap the crucified body of Christ before placing it in the tomb. While other shrouds bearing similar images and claims of authenticity have emerged throughout history, none have matched the Turin shroud in terms of historical continuity, scientific intrigue, and spiritual resonance. For centuries, there were no serious or sustained challenges to its authenticity. That changed dramatically in the late 19th century, when the shroud was publicly displayed and photographed for the first time. In 1898, an Italian lawyer and amateur photographer named Secondo Pia captured images of the shroud during an exhibition. What he discovered shocked the world. When he developed the photographic plates, Pia saw that the negative image revealed a clearer and more detailed depiction of a human face than was visible on the cloth itself. This discovery suggested that the image on the shroud functioned as a photographic negative, a concept unknown and unachievable in the medieval period. The implications of Pia's photographs sparked a surge of interest and investigation. Scientists and theologians alike were intrigued by the possibility that the shroud was more than a religious artifact. It might also be a scientific marvel. Subsequent research proposed various theories to explain the nature of the image. One particularly notable theory was presented by a scientist to the Académie des Sciences in Paris. He suggested that the image had formed through a process known as vaporography. According to this theory, ammoniacal gases released from the body of Jesus after his violent death could have interacted with the linen cloth, especially if it had been treated with oils or spices, leaving behind a reddish-brown stain of varying intensity. The scientist claimed to have replicated this effect in laboratory experiments, lending credence to his theory. What made this explanation especially compelling was its natural basis. It proposed a method of image formation that would not require paint, ink, or human intervention. In fact, modern scientific testing has confirmed the absence of pigments or dyes on the cloth, further undermining the idea that the image is a medieval forgery. Additionally, the anatomical precision of the bloodstains, including clear distinctions between arterial and venous blood, strongly supports the argument that the shroud bears the imprint of a real crucified human body. Even more remarkable are the microscopic and material analyses that have been conducted on the shroud. Pollen grains found on the linen correspond to plants native to the region of Palestine during the 1st century. Researchers have also discovered faint imprints of coin shapes over the eyes of the figure, believed to be Roman coins from the time of Pontius Pilate. These small yet significant details reinforce the claim that the shroud may indeed originate from the time and place of Jesus Christ's crucifixion and burial. The shroud's most extraordinary feature remains its photographic negative image. Unlike traditional artwork, which displays a positive rendering of its subject, the shroud's image is only fully realized when viewed in negative. This reversal of light and shadow produces a hauntingly lifelike representation that seems to transcend normal artistic or natural processes. No known technique from the Middle Ages, or even the Renaissance, can account for such an effect, further deepening the mystery and intrigue surrounding the relic. For believers, these characteristics do more than just excite intellectual curiosity. They stir the heart and soul. The shroud offers a powerful visual representation of the crucified Christ, complete with bloodstains on the wrists, feet, and side, matching the biblical descriptions of Jesus' passion. It serves not only as a possible historical artifact, but also as a symbol of immense theological depth, suggesting a transformative event that bridges the physical and the divine. As we approach 2025, there is growing anticipation about the possibility of another public display of the shroud. Such events often draw massive crowds, including pilgrims, skeptics, scientists, and seekers alike. Whether viewed within the cathedral in Turin or through accompanying museum exhibits, the opportunity to engage with the shroud offers a rare and powerful experience. It invites individuals to reflect on the core truths of Christianity, the suffering, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Ultimately, the Shroud of Turin functions as more than just a religious relic. It stands as a catalyst for inquiry, devotion, and personal transformation. In a world increasingly driven by skepticism and materialism, the shroud provides a point of contact with the sacred. It offers a visual and material testimony to one of history's most pivotal moments, the resurrection of Jesus, and continues to inspire faith and fascination across cultures and generations. Whether it is genuine or not, the shroud prompts the most important question of all. What if it is real? And what does that mean for us today?
For the first time in centuries, researchers have uncovered what's believed to be Jesus' tomb.
Workmen uncovering the marble slab over the tomb. The historian Eusebius said he did it to cover the tomb where Jesus was buried.
Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ's life and death profoundly impacted the world. But what if I told you that scientists recently decided to explore his tomb? And guess what? They found it. What they discovered inside is nothing short of astonishing and has the potential to change the course of history as we know it. Let's uncover the incredible relics found inside Jesus' tomb. You won't want to miss this. We are Jesus' eternal aura. In today's video, you will have appropriate answers to all the questions above. Before you know what happened, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click the bell icon for all the latest updates.
Researchers have uncovered what's believed to be Jesus' tomb inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Jesus Christ's tomb. Without his life, death, and resurrection, Christianity as we know it wouldn't exist. While our knowledge of Jesus primarily comes from the scriptures, archaeologists have been on a quest to uncover the true location of his tomb. According to the Bible, Jesus was buried in a rock-cut tomb following his crucifixion, and amazed his followers by rising from the dead 3 days later. This incredible event is central to Christian belief, but where exactly is this tomb? For centuries, this question has fascinated biblical scholars and historians. Could it be the Talpiot tomb in Jerusalem, the Garden Tomb, or perhaps a burial site in distant locations like Japan or India? Most experts agree that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem's Old City is the most likely location. This church, believed to date back to the 4th century, was identified as the site of Jesus' tomb by Emperor Constantine's representatives in 325 AD. Beneath a Roman temple built by Emperor Hadrian, they discovered a limestone cave with a burial bed, fitting the biblical description of Jesus' tomb. Despite this widely held belief, it's challenging to confirm with absolute certainty that Jesus was buried there. Early Christians faced persecution and were forced to flee Jerusalem, making it difficult to preserve his grave. Over the years, other potential tombs have been suggested. Some believe the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem, unearthed in 1867, could be the site, while others consider the Talpiot tomb, discovered in 1980, a candidate. However, many scholars argue that these locations lack the historical weight of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. In 2016, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was unsealed for the first time in centuries. The church has endured numerous challenges over the centuries: sacked by Persians in the 7th century, destroyed by Muslims in the 11th century, and burned down in the 19th century. Yet it has always been rebuilt by devoted Christians. To prevent visitors from taking pieces of stone, the tomb was sealed with marble cladding around 1555. When Israeli authorities deemed the building unsafe in 2016, Greek Orthodox, Armenian Orthodox, and Roman Catholic entities overseeing the church agreed to repairs. Specialists from the National Technical University of Athens undertook the restoration, carefully removing damaged mortar, repairing masonry, and reinforcing the structure. During their work, they also decided to open the tomb. It was a delicate process, given the tomb's significance to Christianity and other religions. After moving the marble cladding and a second slab carved with a cross, they accessed the limestone cave beneath. For 60 hours, the team collected samples, took rare photographs, and reinforced the tomb's walls. The tomb, plain and unadorned, was revealed to the public after 9 months and $3 million of work, with a small marble window allowing pilgrims to see the limestone rock beneath. This incredible discovery raises further questions. According to John 20:6-7, when Simon Peter entered the tomb, he saw the linen cloths that had wrapped Jesus, with the head cloth separate from the rest. This leads us to the Shroud of Turin, a piece of linen that many believe could be the very cloth mentioned in the Bible. What mysteries does this ancient relic hold? The Shroud of Turin, a highly debated religious relic, has sparked intense controversy, even within the Catholic Church. Carbon dating tests initially indicated that the relic originated between 800 and 1,000 years after Christ, raising suspicions of it being a medieval forgery. To add to the intrigue, the raw data from these tests was kept secret from the public for an astounding 27 years. There were also suspicions that financial incentives were given to the laboratories involved, possibly to promote the myth that the Shroud of Turin was a medieval fake. However, significant new information has emerged, casting doubt on the previous conclusions. Notably, a member of the original examining team has publicly declared that the testing procedure was defective, rendering the results untrustworthy. The Shroud of Turin has been meticulously preserved since 1578 and is currently housed in the Royal Chapel of the Cathedral of San Giovanni Battista. This raises the question of whether government organizations have an interest in keeping its secrets. The shroud is quite large, measuring 4.3 meters in length and 1.1 meters in width, with its surface displaying faint brownish images that add to its mystery. When looking at the shroud, one sees the ghostly image of a man with sunken eyes, standing approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall. One half of the cloth shows an image of a body lying lengthwise, while the other half is folded to cover the entire front from the feet to the face, as though the shroud had witnessed a person's final moments. It is said that the inscriptions on the shroud remarkably resemble the wounds Jesus Christ received while hanging on the cross. The head bears thorn marks, as if covered by a crown of thorns. Cuts on the back indicate a severe beating, while bruises on the shoulders suggest the weight of a heavy load carried. Most poignant are the stains found across the shroud, believed to be bloodstains, rumored to be treasured reminders of the ultimate sacrifice made for humanity. It is important to note that the Catholic Church does not formally certify the authenticity of any relic. While the Church acknowledges the Shroud of Turin, it has not explicitly stated that it is more than an icon of Christian devotion. For millions of pilgrims since the late 19th century, it has symbolized the mystery of the Lord's suffering and death. Researchers have used various scientific methods to investigate the shroud's secrets, bringing more questions than answers. As more studies are conducted, the Shroud of Turin remains a focal point of faith, mystery, and debate, reflecting the enduring enigma of its origins and the story it seems to tell. 3 scientific observations on the shroud. In 1898, scientists observed something astonishing about the Shroud of Turin. The images on it resembled photographic negatives more than actual photographs. This discovery ignited intense curiosity and debate about the shroud's authenticity. To resolve these disputes definitively, the Vatican decided in 1988 to allow carbon dating of the shroud. Microscopic samples of the linen cloth, each slightly larger than a postage stamp, were distributed to 3 laboratories in different countries. The goal was to use carbon dating to determine the age of the shroud. The results from all 3 laboratories were unexpected. They dated the cloth to between 1260 and 1390, suggesting it was a medieval creation. This conclusion posed a significant problem for scientists, as the shroud's image continued to defy explanation. Despite the carbon dating results, the shroud displayed a photographic negative of a body bearing wounds similar to those Christ would have suffered. Scientists, while confident in their carbon dating methods, could not fully explain the shroud's image or its meaning. For nearly a century, scientists have studied the shroud relentlessly, utilizing the most advanced technology available. However, no one has been able to recreate the enigmatic image it bears. Instead, scientific progress has led to more public disclosure of new data supporting the Turin shroud's authenticity. One notable opinion comes from Barry Schwartz, a member of the initial examination team and the project's official photographer. Initially skeptical, Schwartz was not a practicing Jew and thought the shroud was merely an exquisite painting. However, during the extensive examination of the material, he encountered one of the image's enduring mysteries that continues to intrigue scholars today. The investigation used a specialized tool for X-ray analysis, allowing them to project an image's brightness and darkness vertically into space. Typically, this technique would produce a distorted image based on density, but the shroud allowed for a three-dimensional view of a human shape. This finding implied a high correlation between the image's density and the distance between the cloth and the body. Schwartz concluded that the only possible explanation was the contact between the fabric and the body, dismissing the notion of the image being a mere projection. Traditional pictures or artwork do not contain the same information as the shroud. The team initially searched for binders or paint pigments that would suggest the image was made artificially, but found none. Closer examination revealed that the image consisted of concentrated yellow-colored strands, indicating varying intensity of darkness in specific areas. There was no evidence of external influences or materials used to create the image. However, a radiocarbon test conducted 10 years later cast doubt on the shroud's authenticity, labeling it a medieval artifact. Schwartz highlighted the troubling fact that the British Museum, overseeing the 3 laboratories that conducted the radiocarbon testing, delayed releasing the raw data for 27 years. In scientific practice, such data is rarely withheld for so long. Typically, findings are published in journals, and raw data is shared with other researchers for validation or expansion. When the raw data was finally obtained, it became clear why the delay occurred. The evidence revealed that the sample taken from the shroud was not homogeneous. It was a fragment of cloth with one date hundreds of years later at one end and a different date at the other. Consequently, no single spot on the strip could be positively correlated with the cloth's overall date. Moreover, the researchers failed to gather control samples from other areas of the shroud, a prerequisite for precise radiocarbon dating. Further examination revealed the presence of interwoven cotton in the corner where the sample was taken. Combining cotton and linen or wool and cotton is forbidden by Jewish law, known as the mixing of the kinds. This finding contradicts this directive. High-status burial shrouds were typically made of pure linen, but the discovery of cotton raised the possibility that the shroud was rewoven or repaired at some point. Consequently, the repaired corner used for radiocarbon testing rendered it impossible to date the remaining pieces of the cloth accurately. The revelation that the shroud was medieval led to questions about the study's intentions. An anonymous donor had given a substantial sum of $1 million to the British Museum before the official release of the shroud's date, with the explicit aim of refuting its authenticity. The Oxford Laboratory, one of the 3 labs that examined the shroud, received this money. This raises concerns about whether powerful groups are interested in obscuring the truth about the shroud. In addition to radiocarbon dating, scientists have also examined the blood chemistry on the shroud to search for evidence of its genuineness. The fabric contains type AB blood stains, more common among Jews than the general population. Furthermore, the blood retains a vivid red hue, which adds to the intrigue surrounding the shroud. Despite extensive scientific efforts, the Shroud of Turin remains a mystery. While carbon dating suggests it is a medieval artifact, the image on the cloth defies conventional explanations. The lack of evidence for artificial creation and the findings related to blood chemistry continue to fuel debates about its authenticity. As technology advances and more data is disclosed, the shroud's true nature may one day be fully understood, but for now, it remains one of history's most enigmatic relics. The Shroud of Turin is an unparalleled depiction of Jesus' extreme suffering to save humanity. While some may dismiss it as a fabrication, it transforms from mere fabric to an enduring representation of faith that uplifts spirits and elevates feelings everywhere. Here are two compelling stories about the shroud that will touch your heart. In 1418, during the 100 Years' War, Lere Jaffro Dez's granddaughter, Margaret des Charnes, and her husband offered to store the shroud in their castle for safekeeping. Her husband wrote a receipt for the exchange, acknowledging that the cloth was not Jesus' authentic burial shroud and promising to return it when it was safe. However, Margaret later refused to return it and instead took it on tour, advertising it as Jesus' real burial shroud. In 1453, she sold the shroud to the royal house of Savoy, which ruled over parts of modern-day France, Italy, and Switzerland, in exchange for 2 castles. As punishment for selling the shroud, Margaret received excommunication. In 1502, the House of Savoy placed the shroud in the Sainte-Chapelle in Chambéry, now part of France. In 1532, a fire broke out in the chapel, melting part of the silver container protecting the shroud. The silver fell onto the shroud, burning through it. The burn marks and water stains from extinguishing the fire are still visible today. In 1578, the House of Savoy moved the shroud to the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, where it has remained, except during World War II, when it was relocated for safekeeping. In April 2020, Turin Archbishop Cesare Nocilia announced that, in light of the devastation caused by COVID-19, people worldwide could view the Shroud of Turin online for Easter. On the Thursday before the holiday in 2020, Italy reported 143,626 known cases of COVID-19 and 18,279 deaths from the virus. Archbishop Nociglia said he was motivated to provide a live stream of the shroud to thousands who requested to view it during the global crisis. Thus, the shroud remains sacred, reviving thousands of souls worldwide. Before you click off, wouldn't you love to know what Jesus looked like while he was on earth? For centuries, the most common image of Jesus Christ in Western cultures has been that of a bearded, fair-skinned man with long, wavy, light brown or blonde hair and blue eyes. However, the Bible does not describe Jesus physically, and all evidence indicates he probably looked very different from this portrayal. The Bible offers few clues about Jesus' physical appearance. Most of what we know about him comes from the first 4 books of the New Testament, the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. According to the Gospels, Jesus was a Jewish man born in Bethlehem and raised in Nazareth in Galilee, formerly Palestine, now northern Israel, during the 1st century. According to Luke 3:23, Jesus was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. The Bible tells us virtually nothing about what he looked like, except that he did not stand out in any particular way. When Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane before the crucifixion, Judas Iscariot had to point Jesus out to the soldiers among the disciples, presumably because they all appeared similar. For many scholars, Revelation 1:14-15 offers a clue that Jesus' skin was darker and his hair was woolly in texture. The hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. According to Robert Cargill, assistant professor of classics and religious studies at the University of Iowa, and editor of Biblical Archaeology Review, we do not know what Jesus looked like, but if all we know about him is true, he would have looked like a Jewish Galilean. Depictions of Jesus have changed over the centuries. Some of the earliest known artistic representations of Jesus date to the mid-3rd century AD, more than 2 centuries after his death. These paintings from the ancient catacombs of St. Domitilla in Rome, discovered about 400 years ago, reflect one of the most common images of Jesus at the time. The Good Shepherd, a young, short-haired, beardless man with a lamb around his shoulders. Another rare early portrait of Jesus was discovered in 2018 on the walls of a ruined church in southern Israel. Painted in the 6th century AD, it is the earliest known image of Christ found in Israel, portraying him with shorter curly hair, a depiction common to the eastern region of the Byzantine Empire, especially in Egypt and the Syria-Palestine region, but which disappeared from later Byzantine art. The long-haired, bearded image of Jesus that emerged in the 4th century was heavily influenced by representations of Greek and Roman gods, particularly the all-powerful Greek god Zeus. At that point, Jesus started to appear in a long robe, seated on a throne, such as in the 5th century mosaic on the altar of the Santa Pudenziana church in Rome, sometimes with a halo surrounding his head. The point of these depictions was to emphasize Jesus' divine and kingly status. The Shroud of Turin remains a profound and mysterious artifact that continues to captivate and inspire. Whether viewed as a miraculous relic of Jesus' crucifixion or a historical enigma, it stands as a testament to the enduring power of faith and the profound impact of Jesus' life and death. Stories were never intended to show him as a man, but to make theological points about who Jesus was: Christ, King, Judge, and the Divine Son. Joan Taylor, professor of Christian origins and Second Temple Judaism at King's College London, noted that these depictions have evolved into the standard images of Jesus we recognize today. However, not all images of Jesus conform to the dominant portrayal seen in Western art. Different cultures worldwide have depicted him as one of their own, reflecting the dominant racial identity of each culture. But can we get a more definite clue from science? Let's find out. In 2001, retired medical artist Richard Neve led a team of Israeli and British forensic anthropologists and computer programmers in creating a new image of Jesus. They based this reconstruction on an Israeli skull dating to the 1st century AD, using computer modeling and their knowledge of what Jewish people looked like at the time. While no one claims it is an exact reconstruction of Jesus' appearance, scholars consider this image, depicting a man around 5 feet tall, with darker skin, dark eyes, and shorter, curlier hair, more accurate than many artistic depictions of the Son of God. In her 2018 book, What Did Jesus Look Like?, Taylor used archaeological remains, historical texts, and ancient Egyptian funerary art to conclude that Jesus, like most people in Judea and Egypt of his time, most likely had brown eyes, dark brown to black hair, and olive brown skin. He may have stood about 5 feet 5 inches, 166 centimeters tall, which was the average height for a man at the time. While Cargill agrees that these more recent images of Jesus, including darker, perhaps curlier hair, darker skin, and dark eyes, probably come closer to the truth, he stresses that we can never really know exactly what Jesus looked like. According to him, Jewish Galileans didn't have blue eyes and blonde hair 2,000 years ago. Thus, the question of what Jesus looked like will only be resolved when he returns or we meet him in heaven.
Have you ever pondered the enigmatic allure of ancient prophecies? Delving into the depths of time, we unearth legends and writings that foretell events capable of reshaping the very fabric of our existence. Humanity teeters on the precipice of fate, with cryptic signs and forgotten omens from epochs past hinting at a future fraught with peril and unimaginable marvels. Prepare yourself, for what lies ahead is bound to challenge your perception of reality and send shivers down your spine. Brace for the imminent fulfillment of 10 prophecies that are poised to alter the course of history forever. Stay tuned as we delve into the prophecy that will shock you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content. Number 15. The Last Pope. In the annals of history, the prophecy of Saint Malachi stands as a cryptic testament to the enigmatic visions of the Archbishop of Armagh, who traversed the ancient streets of Rome in the 12th century. Amidst his journeys, whispers of a peculiar revelation began to surface, one that foretold the destiny of future pontiffs through a series of terse Latin phrases. Intriguingly, it wasn't until centuries after Saint Malachi's passing that these prophecies came to light, shrouded in mystery and imbued with an aura of prophetic significance. Among the prophecies, one looms particularly ominous: the prediction of a final pope, bearing the name Peter, whose tenure would herald turmoil within the Roman Church and, some speculate, even signal the apocalyptic denouement of days. Initially relegated to the realm of obscure lore, this prophecy gained newfound relevance with the unprecedented resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, paving the way for the ascension of Pope Francis. With the name Francis chosen for the pontiff, speculation ran rife among prophecy aficionados. Despite Pope Francis's Argentine origins and birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, proponents of the prophecy discerned potential ties to Rome and the prophesied Peter. They pointed to the Pope's Italian heritage, tracing his lineage to Italian immigrants, thus forging a tenuous yet tantalizing link to the Eternal City. Yet, amidst the fervor of conjecture, skepticism persists. Many remain cautious, cognizant of the elusive nature of prophecy and the vagaries of interpretation. Only the relentless march of time holds the key to unraveling the veracity of these age-old prognostications. Patience becomes our ally as we await the unfolding of events, poised on the precipice of revelation, ever vigilant for the emergence of truth from the veils of uncertainty. Number 14. Vladimir Putin takes over the world. Nestled within Bulgaria's Koju Mountains lies a mysterious graveyard steeped in tales of enchantment, its mystique perpetuated by the resting place of a remarkable woman known as Baba Vanga. Despite being blind since childhood, Baba Vanga possessed extraordinary powers as a mystic and seer, leaving an indelible mark on history with her startling predictions. From the collapse of the Soviet Union to the tragic Chernobyl disaster, the sinking of the Russian submarine Kursk, and the harrowing events of September 11, 2001, Baba Vanga's prophetic insights have both astonished and unsettled the world. Her prescient abilities extended beyond geopolitical events, delving into the underlying tensions of North Korea and forewarning of natural disasters and impending conflicts. Rumors of her psychic prowess spread far and wide, with intimates recalling her anticipation of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict and her bold proclamation of Vladimir Putin's ascension to global dominance, envisioning him as an unstoppable force, akin to a monarch ruling over a resurgent Russia. Yet, amidst the intrigue surrounding Baba Vanga's prophecies, uncertainty looms over the exact date of Putin's prophesied reign, prompting conjecture among self-proclaimed mystics. While some envisage a swift demise for the Russian leader at the hands of his own people, the veracity of such claims remains shrouded in ambiguity, tethered to the unfolding events of the future. Baba Vanga's legacy is not confined to geopolitical foretelling. She ominously predicted the specter of another global conflict akin to World War II, exacerbated by the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Her chilling prophecy serves as a poignant reminder of humanity's fragile existence, compelling us to redouble our efforts in pursuit of peace and avert the cataclysmic consequences of warfare on a global scale. Despite the gravity of Baba Vanga's predictions, hope endures in the collective human spirit, buoyed by the belief that the trajectory of the future is not immutable. As we grapple with the delicate interplay between fate and free will, Baba Vanga's heritage serves as both a warning and a call to action, spurring us to choose a path of enlightenment and cooperation over the precipice of destruction. Number 13. Necromancy. Decades ago, envisioning a future where communication with the departed, uploading consciousness into computers, and microscopic robots coursing through our veins would have been dismissed as pure science fiction. However, there exists a man who challenges such notions, a visionary named Ray Kurzweil, whose insights have garnered him invitations to Bill Gates' residence on 2 occasions. Kurzweil is not just a man. He's a trailblazer, a futurist, and the eminent lead engineer at Google, whose profound impact on technology spans nearly 4 decades. Among his many innovations, Kurzweil conceived the concept of the flatbed scanner, pioneered the development of the first genuine electric piano, and engineered the inaugural speech recognition software with a vast lexicon. His expertise in artificial intelligence has captivated technophiles worldwide, elevating him to a sought-after speaker commanding fees upwards of $225,000 per event. Kurzweil's prognostications transcend mere speculation. They offer glimpses into a future where the impossible becomes plausible. He envisions a reality where virtual reality serves as a conduit to commune with departed loved ones within the next 3 decades. Such a notion may seem fantastical, but Kurzweil's rationale is rooted in the potential of nanobots, minuscule robots capable of extracting human memories and transferring them onto memory drives. Advanced artificial intelligence algorithms would then replicate these memories, along with the personality, voice, and the intellect of the deceased. The lines between reality and simulation blur as we engage with AI replicas of our cherished ones, oblivious to their synthetic nature. What lends credence to Kurzweil's assertions is his remarkable track record. He boasts an accuracy rate of approximately 90% with past predictions, imbuing his forecasts with a sense of credibility. Kurzweil's vision transcends mere technological advancement. It heralds a paradigm shift in our understanding of life, death, and interpersonal relationships. The prospect of conversing with departed loved ones through technological means opens avenues for coping with grief, fostering healing, and perpetuating a sense of continuity amidst loss. In Kurzweil's dreams lies the potential to redefine the very essence of existence, offering solace in the face of mortality and reshaping our perception of the human experience. As we navigate the uncharted territories of tomorrow, Kurzweil's insights serve as beacons guiding humanity toward a future where the boundaries between the tangible and the ethereal dissolve, and the essence of what it means to be alive takes on a new, transcendent form. Number 12. Cannibalism on Earth. In his prophetic visions for 2023, Nostradamus forewarned of a potential breakdown in the global food supply chain, attributing this peril to various catalysts such as pandemics, warfare, or climate upheaval. Intriguingly, his predictions allude to the specter of cannibalism, sparking speculation among scholars of prophecy regarding its possible manifestations. Some interpret Nostradamus's cryptic references as allusions to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Putin's stringent measures to restrict grain exports from the region have precipitated a sharp escalation in food prices, exacerbating the plight of the populace. While reports of cannibalism have yet to surface in Ukraine, the intensification of hostilities could portend darker days ahead. Alternatively, others contend that Nostradamus's prophecies may be pertinent to the Horn of Africa, a region besieged by a protracted drought spanning 4 decades. This ecological crisis, coupled with political instability, has triggered a surge in food prices and left a staggering 3/4 of the population grappling with hunger. With an additional 27 million individuals reliant on food aid, the specter of famine looms ominously, potentially culminating in the unthinkable act of cannibalism. Contemplating the prospect of cannibalism evokes profound unease, yet it serves as a stark reminder of the dire consequences that may arise from the convergence of societal upheaval and environmental distress. While these conjectures stem from the enigmatic verses of Nostradamus, they underscore the imperative of vigilance and proactive measures to mitigate the looming humanitarian crises. As we navigate the uncertainties of the future, it is incumbent upon us to heed the lessons of history and cultivate compassion and solidarity in the face of adversity. Number 11. Telepathy and the connection of brains. In the ever-evolving landscape of internet communication, the allure of chat-based interactions continues to captivate users. Despite the burgeoning popularity of text-based exchanges, there remains an inherent preference for verbal dialogue, rooted in the belief that modulation of speech enhances the conveyance of ideas. However, an intriguing forecast posited by British futurist Ian Pearson challenges this notion, inviting us to contemplate a future where communication transcends the confines of spoken language. Before delving into Pearson's bold prediction, it's pertinent to explore his track record of foresight. With an accuracy rate of approximately 85%, Pearson has earned acclaim for his prescient insights, accurately foreseeing the rise of smartwatches and music subscription services decades ago. Yet perhaps his most audacious prognostication emerged 6 years prior when he envisioned a paradigm shift in human interaction propelled by the advent of neurotechnology. According to Pearson's forecast, by the year 2050, advances in neurotechnology will facilitate communication through the power of thought alone. This transformative technology hinges upon the integration of computer chips into our brains, establishing a neural interface with sophisticated cloud-based networks interconnected via quantum computing. Through this neural network, individuals could effortlessly transmit words and thoughts without verbal articulation, effectively harnessing the power of telepathy. The implications of such technology are staggering. Imagine engaging in conversations, acquiring knowledge, and exchanging messages with mere thoughts, unencumbered by the limitations of spoken language. Moreover, the prospect of accessing vast repositories of information and assimilating another individual's skills directly into our minds through a concept Pearson dubs the Hybrid Intelligence Biometric Avatar, HEA, promises to revolutionize human cognition. While Pearson's prophecy may initially sound fantastical, it's imperative to recall the trajectory of technological progress. History abounds with examples of once unthinkable advancements becoming reality, underscoring the plausibility of Pearson's vision. If realized, the establishment of a global network of interconnected minds would herald a profound shift in human interaction, fostering unprecedented levels of connectivity and creativity. However, such a transformative leap forward raises profound ethical and privacy considerations as society grapples with the ethical implications of navigating uncharted territories within the realm of the mind. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, Pearson's forecast ignites a sense of anticipation and apprehension, prompting contemplation of a future where the boundaries between thought and communication blur. Number 10. British Royal Family. In 2022, the passing of Queen Elizabeth II elicited profound sorrow across the United Kingdom, marking the end of an era cherished by many. Curiously, following her demise, sales of the renowned ancient prophet Nostradamus' book surged dramatically, shattering previous records. While initially perplexing to some, a closer examination revealed a striking correlation between Nostradamus' prophecies and the Queen's passing. Centuries prior, Nostradamus had foretold not only the Queen's death but also the ascension of a new monarch, albeit one who would face swift rejection by the populace. Intriguingly, he posited that an unexpected figure, devoid of royal aspirations, would emerge to assume the throne. The prescience of these prophetic verses, penned in the 16th century long before Queen Elizabeth's reign, adds an extra layer of fascination to their uncanny alignment with historical events. Indeed, as foretold, King Charles III, aged 96, succeeded Queen Elizabeth precisely as Nostradamus had envisioned. Yet the plot thickens further as Nostradamus' predictions extend to Prince Harry's unexpected rise to kingship despite his renunciation of any claim to the throne. Prince Harry's current absence from the UK only serves to amplify the intrigue surrounding these prophecies. While Prince William is presently the heir apparent, Nostradamus' enigmatic verses hint at a surprising twist wherein Prince Harry defies expectations and ascends to the throne. The remarkable accuracy of Nostradamus' prognostications throughout history continues to captivate the collective imagination. Despite the temporal chasm separating his writings from contemporary events, they possess an eerie propensity for aligning with pivotal junctures in history. With anticipation mounting, observers eagerly await the unfolding of time, poised to witness whether Nostradamus' prophecy concerning Prince Harry's ascension materializes. Number 9. Designer Babies. Baba Vanga's prophecy regarding designer babies offers a fascinating glimpse into the future of reproductive technology. She envisioned a world where, starting in 2023, babies would be born in laboratories, with doctors exerting complete control over their appearance and behavior. While initially seeming far-fetched, recent developments suggest that such a future may not be as implausible as it appears. On February 19, 2020, a landmark achievement occurred with the birth of the world's first baby from eggs that had been preserved and grown in a lab. French fertility specialists achieved this milestone for a 34-year-old woman, utilizing a method called in vitro maturation to cultivate 7 previously undeveloped eggs extracted from her ovaries 5 years prior. This breakthrough underscored the potential of laboratory-based reproductive techniques. Further bolstering the plausibility of Baba Vanga's prediction, a German biotechnologist embarked on creating a mechanical womb in 2022. Dubbed Echo Life, this facility aims to empower parents with the ability to select specific features for their child from a curated list. Despite ongoing ethical debates surrounding this technology, the hospital behind Echo Life remains committed to facilitating the birth of 30,000 babies annually in the future. The rapid advancements in reproductive technology signal a paradigm shift in childbirth practices, aligning with Baba Vanga's prophetic vision of designer babies. As science continues to push the boundaries of what is possible, controlling the physical traits and characteristics of offspring within laboratory settings may soon become a reality. However, amidst this progress, it is imperative to reflect on the ethical implications of these advancements. The prospect of manipulating genetic attributes raises complex moral questions that demand careful consideration. Number 8. Cyborgs. In the contemporary world, the enigma of cyborgs has been unraveled, yet delving into the annals of history offers insight into the trajectory of future advancements. Approximately 1 million years ago, Earth was home to diverse human species, among them the Neanderthals, who exhibited remarkable advancement in their quest for sustenance through rudimentary methods. However, around 10,000 years ago, the advent of settled communities marked a pivotal juncture in human evolution, catalyzing the cultivation of agriculture and ushering in an era of scientific progress aimed at addressing health challenges. This transformative shift engendered profound changes in human physiology, with cranial capacity expanding, bodies growing larger, and intelligence flourishing. Today, Homo sapiens stand as the apex of cognitive prowess, their brains outstripping even the most sophisticated computers in processing power.